Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
I'm supposed to be excited. Hi. I don't feel excited.
You should be a little bit excited because on the day we're recording is our first snowstorm. I would say of this year, but really of the last 2 years in Virginia. So
yeah, we're recording this like 2 weeks before you hear it. So it's December 16th. Yeah. I would care more if I didn't have to go outside in it with the dog who loves snow and I don't like trudging through it. I like watching it. Or if I didn't have to go to school today, AKA work. But I do work. I am working today. So it's not a snow day when you have to work.
I know. Snow days don't really exist for work from home people anymore. And aren't we all work from home people now for the most part?
I guess. I don't know. Hopefully 2021 will bring us something good.
I hope
something new. Okay, so I am like in not a good mood right now.
Well, last episode, which is weeks ago, I was grumpy. And so we've switched places. So you get to be the grumpy one today.
I went back to being the grumpy one, you mean? Starting the year off right. Actually, I don't know that when this comes out, I will be in a grumpy mood still. I could be in a totally good mood.
Yeah, you don't know.
But I want to just say, I want to make a note about why I think I might be grumpy, because I think it could apply to other people too. There's a lot of end of year processing that happens. And I think as you're processing, as we've learned, you feel lots of weird emotions and you don't always understand why. And like, you don't have to label those. It's okay. But also I was in a perfectly good mood. I was feeling really good up until I found out last week that my grandma is dying. And it was not a shock. I mean, she's been on the decline for years. And now it's like a definitive decline this time.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly when, but, she's, under hospice care now, and it's a matter of time. And so when I found that out last week, that was something that I was grieving, like actively. And now I'm not crying every day about it like I was for the first 24 hours, but I think it would be a mistake to go, I was feeling good up until last Thursday when I found that out. And since then I have not felt good. And it doesn't feel like it's about her a week later. And I'm like, but I think it might kind of still be about that.
Yeah. Not a coincidence.
Or at least it set me off on a downward spiral that then attracted other things for me to be upset about. Because that also happens.
Well, there's a lot
I have to be
grieve.
honest about like where I think it's coming from. And I think a lot of people, maybe you're not losing your grandma or losing someone right now, but grief does show itself in very odd ways, and it's not always sadness. Sometimes it's frustration or anger. I've been feeling angry for the past couple of days.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that a stage of grief? Sadness is a stage, anger is a stage, bargaining,
yeah, but I'm not
all of it.
actively mad about that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, right.
I think when we think of that, we think I'm mad because someone. That's not why. I don't know why I'm mad. I just feel mad. I can't even tell you why I feel mad.
Yeah.
So I just am being smart and connecting the dots and going, I think it would be a mistake to assume that it's about something totally unrelated than that,
right. That's actually been a theme of most of my coaching conversations the past couple of weeks is people are just having a flood of emotions or losing energy, losing steam. And you're right. There's like this processing that happens at the end of every year, but then the processing that is happening of all of the emotions that got churned up this year, you're going to need a little bit of a longer, stretched out processing, recalibrating emotional healing after this year. And this is the time we're all winding down anyway. We're winding down the year. We're winding down for the holidays. And it's, you know how whenever you take a big test or do a big interview, you prep and you're running on adrenaline all the way up through it. But then right afterward, you just crash.
And you
We're
sometimes
crashing
get sick.
at the end. We've been on an adrenaline run, most of us, for the whole year. We're all crashing right now. Whatever you're feeling, even if your energy is in the tank, if your mood is unpredictable by the hour, like that's normal at the end of this year.
Remember how in our last episode in our side chat, I was like, I kind of like when things aren't working. I regret saying that
take
now.
it back?
No, I don't take it back. I just don't understand why I don't relate to the me of 2 weeks ago who said that.
Honestly, though, that's a really good point, too.
Yeah.
We all over-identify with how we're feeling in the moment. Like, you can't even remember that version of you from a couple of weeks ago.
I mean, I remember it. I don't understand it, though. Like, I can't quite connect.
That's what I mean. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So whatever you're feeling right now, you will feel different. Because 2 weeks ago, you felt different. This is true of all of us.
True. 2 weeks later, I could feel different.
Yeah, we get really wrapped up in how we're feeling right now. We're like, I guess this is just me now. No. All emotions are
No, I know
transient.
This isn't me now. I just don't like feeling it at this moment. I don't like feeling tired and crabby. I was having a better time when I was feeling happy and like kind of delighted that things weren't working. That was like a new sensation for me. And now I'm back to just being me, which is kind of crabby. And
you're acting like
curmudgeonly.
You're acting like
Eeyore.
That's the real you.
I don't know. I think it might be. I don't know. It feels very real when you're experiencing it.
It does.
So you have to be very cautious to not you have to be very cautious not to over relate to yourself when you're feeling any kind of a way, particularly the negative, because it feels extra potent and real when you're in it. And then when you get perspective and you're out of it, you often also find it equally as difficult to connect to. Why was I so upset about that? Or why was I so, So anyway, just being honest about how I'm feeling. And who knows, as we're starting this year, you're hearing this on January 1st. I could be feeling totally different because that's 2 weeks from now in my experience. Let's hope.
I was feeling real cranky the last time we recorded a podcast, and this time I'm feeling just fine. So you never know.
Okay. Well, thank you to everyone who submitted Dear Krachel questions ahead of this month. I did like a special kind of call for them, and I got more than we could address. So I'm saving some of them for next time. So if you don't hear your question answered, come back in February.
But they were really good. So thank you for that. And we love getting your questions.
And some of you have asked questions I've answered before. So there are some that I might not answer, but that I might shout you out at some point and be like, hey, go listen to this episode. We already recorded an answer for you in the past.
Somebody else had your question.
It
should
don't
be
feel bad if
validating.
you. Yeah, it just means that there's certain things that are universal.
Yeah, you should feel less alone that other people ask the same thing.
We have 3 questions today. Do you want to read the first one?
Sure. Okay.
Dear
Krachel, what do you do when this happens? You make a load of progress that really sticks, aka you feel it, you live it, you notice the space that it created when that issue started to dissolve. Others notice it too, and it lasts for a long time. So it seems like a major change rather than a short-term thing. But then, after a good period of time, one day you find yourself somehow back in the place, emotionally, psychologically, etc., which you were sure you moved past and let go of. It's not just a day when that old you comes back. Sometimes it stays for quite a while. What does that mean? Does it mean true progress was never really made? That is from Diana.
No. It just means you're a person. Sadly, unfortunately, it just means you're a person. I think that I wouldn't call it backsliding because that seems like the connotation there is somewhat negative. I just think that it's very normal for progress to not be a 45-degree angle in an upward direction. Like on the XY axis, it's not a 45-degree angle headed upward. It's a very weird looping roller coaster of a line that goes up and down and back around and has dips and valleys. And like if you zoom way out, it might have somewhat of an upward trajectory. But while you're on it, you can't even discern what the trajectory is, at least lots of the times.
Yeah, that's how progress is made. It's not what we want. It's not the most fun way, but it's
also
messy,
tiring.
And it's just how it works. We gave an example recently. I can't remember which episode it was, where we talked about climbing up a mountain, but circular, where you keep coming back to the same vantage point. You know how when I'm not a huge hiker, but I've hiked enough mountain. I did go to the school in the mountains, that all of the paths going up are winding. You can't just walk straight up a mountain. You have to wind around it. You have to go in circles so the incline's not too steep. And you keep coming back sometimes to the exact same vantage point, just a little higher up the mountain. So it could look like, oh my God, I just saw this. I was literally just here. But you are coming at it from a slightly new perspective because you have been there before and you're a little higher up. So even when you're in what feels like the same situation, you're like, oh my God, I thought I moved past this. I thought I was never going to have to be here again. Sometimes you have to go back there to see, I actually am coming at this from a different perspective. I've gone through this in the past. I did learn some things. Doesn't mean I'm now exempt from having to deal with this situation ever again. It just means I can process it more quickly. I can have a different response than I used to have. And I have more insight and more self-awareness of what's going on so I don't get stuck in it as much as I did in the past.
This is kind of a weird, I don't know. I'm just sharing the visual that's coming to my mind right now. Okay. So you can just deal with that. It's kind of like giving birth. There's like an expansion and a contraction and an expansion and a contraction, and that pushes something out. But like the baby sometimes comes out and then goes back. You know what I mean? It doesn't like always fully slide out. It's like, oh, it's a little bit. Oh, wait, no. And I feel like that's kind of what happens when we're, not to sound like a coach, but it's what I am, giving birth to a new kind of reality, to a new version of yourself. And yeah, sometimes you can't really not just appreciate where you've been, but fully process it until you've gone back and revisited it. Like time is somewhat of a circle. And I think that maybe what's happening, I swear to God, there is a line about this in The Alchemist, and I can't remember what it is, but I know he talks about this, that sometimes when you get right close to like the end of something, that you end up being tested one last time, or you end up kind of re-experiencing it to kind of see, okay, did you learn anything? Can you work through this differently this time? Can you see how much, you've changed because this feels very similar, but you are different. And so can you work through this differently? And can you appreciate how much you have grown in having to approach a similar thing from a slightly different perspective or vantage point or just strength, you know? And I'm not saying this is the last thing that you'll, again, the end of your journey is not quite accurate because we're never really done. But there's that too to consider.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up The Alchemist. I think that would be a really good book for Diana to read right now.
I'm sure she's read it before. Knowing Diana, she's read it, but she might need to reread it. And that book does find you. I know who Diana is. So, yes. And I know she loves books, but she might reread it. It finds you at the right time, you know?
It feels like good timing for this question that she's asking, because you reminded me that part of that process where you get tested again, at first, you're making progress and you have beginner's luck. And it's like, this is easy. And look at all the growth I'm having and the progress I'm making. And man, this isn't even as hard as I thought it was going to be. And then bam, you get tested again. And then it can feel like, why was it so easy before? And all of a sudden it got so hard and I feel like I didn't even make any progress. No. That's the path. That's how change and evolution actually happens. So if you read that, I think it's going to be validating. And we did a book club on it too, if we want to link to that past episode.
Oh, that was like 2 plus years ago.
It was one of our earliest book clubs.
I think it was like 2018, like the summer of 2018. It was a long time ago, like 2.5 years ago. Such a good book. Highly recommend. One other thing I want to say, if there's anything we're good at, it's just giving you way too many metaphors and just telling you to pick one. But think about this as physical fitness. If you had gotten into the habit of going and working out and lifting weights and you were feeling like your endurance was up and your muscles were popping, and then maybe you got injured or I don't know, something happened and you had to take some time off the gym, or you just kind of accidentally fell off the wagon of going to the gym, would you then be surprised if your muscles atrophied a little bit, or if you gained a teeny bit of fat and lost muscle mass, or that your heart rate wasn't quite as good when you ran again? No. So there is a fitness to like emotional, spiritual progress too. And there is a consistency there. So sometimes we find ourselves, quote unquote, backsliding the way we might if we stop going to the gym emotionally and spiritually. So there is an honesty that we might need to have with ourselves. Like, okay, have I slacked on things that actually have been very good for me in the past? It's the classic, I started meditating and I felt so good because I did it for like a month and then I was feeling good. So I stopped doing it. And then 2 weeks later, I feel like crap and I don't get it. And I'm like, well, because you stopped doing the thing that was making you feel good. Like if you're taking meds and they're making you feel great, don't stop taking the meds. They're the reason that you feel good. And the meds could be literal or figurative here. So
yeah, that's a good point. There. It sounds like there's probably one of two things going on here for Diana. Either that's the case. She was actively working on emotional health and growth and overcoming this challenge that she'd had in the past, and then kind of fell off the bandwagon, right? And here it comes right back up again. Or it could be, hey, you're on track. You're doing all the right things. And this is maybe even a sign of your growth. Like if you haven't slacked, and you're like, no, I'm committed. I'm doing the thing. And I'm still back here. Well, that just might mean you have to come at this from a new angle in order to grow and heal to like the next evolution. So I don't know which one is true, but it's going to take a little bit of honesty with yourself, Diana, to say, does this feel like it's an on-track sign of growth? Or is this a sign, you know what? I fell off of the things that were helping me.
Diana and I are going to have an opportunity to talk about this soon, one-on-one.
Oh, great.
So maybe she'll give me permission to give you guys an update about how she processes this advice.
Excellent.
So, okay, I think that was enough for Diana. Again, classic Krachel, Diana, we're going to like spray you with the answers and like just whatever you can catch. Just
take what resonates.
Out of this fire hose, just take it, okay? That's the sign that we're not really as smart or as good as we think we are, because the best writers are succinct and clear and they don't use too many words, and they're
so
like
true.
It takes time to write less and to be less verbose. And you and I we don't bother to do that. We're not very crafty. We're not nearly as smart.
We
as
use way too many words.
But anyway, I'm not editing myself because this is my stream of consciousness. So
that's what this podcast is.
Then keep coming back. If you don't like it, well, just don't leave a bad review. Okay, here's number 2. Dear Krachel, I recently asked for a raise and got denied, which was not expected. I've worked for this company at my current salary for a long time and know that I'm being underpaid. I provide a lot of value and I probably work too much, to be honest. I might feel differently right now if the rationale for not giving me a raise was logical. Maybe it's been a tough year due to COVID and we just don't have the resources. Okay, well, that would be disappointing, but understandable. But the response I got was basically a strong hint that I should be grateful for what I'm already being given. I work in a field that does good in the world, and it's almost like my boss was saying, isn't this work you're doing enough? Now I'm feeling a bit torn and guilty, but I also know I probably shouldn't be feeling that way, so I'm coming to you to get set straight. Any encouragement you can give me is welcome. Good and poor.
Good and poor. Oh, this fires me up. I am so annoyed that the people who are doing good work in the world, who are really genuinely helping people, which clearly that's a place where she works. They're doing good in the world. Like, that should be enough, right? As if the people who are doing the best work that is most helpful and most supportive to other people should get paid the least. But
it should be taken advantage of the most, right?
Right. Like, you don't need to make money. You're doing good in the world. I'm like, shouldn't we pay those people the most? They're having the best impact on our world. But if this person were like in finance or Wall Street or whatever, we'd be like, oh, well, of course she's going to get paid a lot. I'm saying she. I don't actually know that it's a she.
And what are those people doing for the world compared to...
It's what I mean.
It's ridiculous.
We don't value people the way I think makes the most sense. So this, first of all, on its head makes no sense to me. And
it's also gaslighting.
It's gaslighting.
Like, that's manipulative, and do not for a second buy into it. I cannot stand, because this is a thing I've seen multiple times, which is why I wanted to answer this question, because this is not the first time I've heard of this or seen it with my own eyes. I cannot stand when a company underpays you and then turns around and acts like you should be grateful for the privilege of getting to be underpaid by them. No, because both and can be true. You can both do great work in the world and get paid well. And dare I say this, if you are paid better, your work will be better because you won't be worried about making money. You won't be in survival mode. You'll have extra energy.
You won't be resentful.
To spare.
You're going to want to give your best effort because you feel like you're also being valued and compensated. That's what a true win-win is. A company who wants to get the greatest engagement and value out of their people has to value them. And one of the ways that they do that is by compensating them well. So to say, you don't deserve this, we just expect you to do your best work that supports all of these people for pennies? How is that fair at all? How do you keep the best people doing the job that needs doing?
You're going to get burnout. You're going to get turnover. You're not going to attract the best and brightest. You're going to attract the people who, and I don't know, good and poor, you might have a little touch of this. So gird yourself for some hard truths. Like, a company like that is going to attract people who are willing somewhat to settle for crumbs.
Which means it's going to be people who are brand new to their career and are just trying to get a foot in the door. Or people who have
worthiness issues.
Or people who are martyrs.
Self-esteem. Oh my God, I thought you said murderers.
Oh no. I don't think they're going to get murderers.
You know what? I feel like, I feel
like murderers are kind of narcissistic and they would not stand to be paid.
I don't know. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I don't know that they would. I think that they might have a little bit more
a God complex and be a narcissist to take a life. So you're not going to settle for pennies.
You probably won't.
No. You're not a martyr.
Not a premeditated murderer.
I said martyr and you said murderer, and those are about as opposite as you can get.
I disagree because I think that martyrs are people who think that they're good people and actually have selfish motives.
And there are murderers who do it to try to be martyrs.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I think they're actually more related than you think they are.
This turned into a weird philosophical tangent.
I don't care. I like it. No, I just mean being called a martyr is not actually a compliment. It's you respect yourself less than everyone else around you.
Which reminds me of a blog turned podcast that I did a year or 2 years ago or something about selflessness and how that does not make you a good person. And so we should link to that one.
I'll link to that too. So anyway, I'm not actually saying, I think Good and Poor knows that she shouldn't feel like this because she literally said that and she reached out to us for some setting straight, which I appreciate because she knows we would definitely have some words for her. But I bet she works she might have a touch of this and she probably works with people who have more than a touch of that, where they feel like they're not allowed to ask for more and that it's wrong to want more money, that they have a connotation with money being sort of a negative or an evil or a not spiritual thing. And money is just, let's just get clear, money is just energy. All it is a resource. And so it has no moral value whatsoever. It's how you use it and what you do with it. So if you have more money and you're a good person, then likely you're going to do good things with it and you're going to have a ripple effect on the world. And a company that really walks their talk would know that and pay you accordingly.
When money is used appropriately, like in a healthy way, it ends up allowing you to vote with your dollars for what you value. And when you are making money and using it for things that matter to you, you can have a great impact in the world. When you're a company and you have the value of money to give as a symbol of, I value my employees, I respect my employees, I want to lift up my employees, I want to attract people who really care and want to be here and want to be well compensated. And like, it can be used for really great things. So this like negative connotation that I don't know how so many people got about, like, if you're doing it for the money, it's a bad thing.
No.
What if you're doing it for the service and the money? That's a win-win.
In fact, I really believe if you're only doing it for the service of it, then you're going to end up resentful because you also are a person who needs to pay their bills.
Yes.
Like, it really can't just be one or the other. So
if you're so of service to other people, but you're not of service to yourself, are you really like that thoughtful? Because you've just completely ignored your own needs. I don't know.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
I do know.
The answer is yes. You are just as important and valuable as anyone else.
You're a person too.
Yeah. So to make yourself less than is actually somewhat, in a weird way, it's like covertly narcissistic. Like, I'm uniquely unspecial as opposed to overt narcissism, which is I am uniquely special.
It's true.
So I think that we've probably convinced her that she doesn't have to feel guilty about it and that she's allowed to be fired up about this.
Yeah, I wanted to get a little righteous about it.
And now what is there to do about it? I don't know. That's a hard thing because I don't know that you can change the culture of your employee, of your employer or everywhere, right? Just you. That's a kind of a hard ask. But I don't know. If you didn't feel like you had a lot to lose, you could bring this up with your boss. And you could
collect other people. You could kind of get a little bit more of a collective voice around this, because if this is the culture, guarantee you're not the only one feeling underpaid and undervalued. Yeah. And I bet you could get some more voices along with yours to say, this is not industry standard. This is not appropriate. And we collectively are asking for more. So you're not the one lone voice out there trying to convince the powers that be. That's one option.
That's a good plan. Just know that what's likely going on is that when you ask for a raise and your boss is like, no, it's probably bringing up all of their issues of lack and unworthiness and feeling like they can't ask for more. So I don't know, you being a little bit of a firebrand and saying, well, why can't both be true? Like, and challenging this norm and maybe having other people back you up. Who knows? You could make a change. You could convince your boss that this isn't really personal. It's more of like a cultural thing that they have the opportunity to influence for the better and everyone could benefit. You could really be a win-win.
Yeah, and I think you have to present it.
Sell it. Yeah. Yeah. Is why this is a win-win for everyone, not just me. Like, I'm not being selfish here.
And why it's a win for the mission. When you and everyone, how it's a win for you, how it's a win for all the other employees, how it's a win for the ultimate customers or the people that you're serving. If you can present it that way, then you've got a good case. Now, I'm not saying it's going to change anyone's mind, but if you come with that approach and you still get turned down, okay, well then at that point, I don't know, maybe you need to evaluate your choices.
Is this where I want to be?
Because ultimately you don't want to be burnt out and resentful of where you are.
No, and you don't deserve that. And there are places that won't treat you like that.
Exactly.
And who I think do good in the world. I don't think those are mutually exclusive.
No, I don't.
So maybe rarer, not mutually exclusive. So, okay, you want to read our last question?
Okay. Question 3. Dear Krachel, I'm approaching 34 and I'm hitting all sorts of difficult decisions in career, life, and relationships. all of which are undercut by this looming sense that as an aspiring wife and mother, I'm running out of time. I know this is a massively stereotypical of women my age and not very evolved for a self-proclaimed feminist, but my desire to have a family is strong. I've just come out of a 9-month relationship where the man I loved ended things because he needed space, while I was getting more confident that he was the right partner for me. I want to feel positive about meeting and keeping Mr. Good Enough, but I've lost faith that I'm able to do this. I'm constantly getting well-meaning advice from friends and family that I will never find someone if I keep looking, and that as long as I focus on just quote-unquote doing life, he will come to me. But I have always been a believer that taking action will get you results. It's worked for me in my career, financially, and in areas of my social life. So how do I overcome my increasing feelings of hopelessness and not want to jab myself in the eye every time someone says I'm so young or men are crazy for not wanting to be with me? I've taken practical steps like looking into egg freezing to buy me some time, but it would be nice to spend the rest of my 30s not in an anxious, frightful state. Thank you so much for your help. Trying not to be desperate, but desperate nonetheless.
Do you see why I wanted to answer this question?
I do. There's one, I know there's a lot we want to get into of this.
Oh, I have some thoughts.
There's one piece that I want to just pull directly from this and counter, which is,
okay.
It was, as a self-proclaimed feminist, it's not very evolved for me to want this. Who says?
Yeah. That's one of the it's worst things that like faux feminism has done to us. That's not real feminism.
I feel like, and this is not just
it's not just her.
This is not just the questioner out, like who feels this way. I just feel like there's this idea that if you're a proud feminist, then you should be fine with being independent and you shouldn't want or need a man or want to have a family. Like those are things that 50s housewives wanted. Like, no.
That's
feminism just means you get to pick what you want. So not every woman has to want the same things, but you can choose to want that and that can be perfect for you. So I just want to throw that out there. Like I want to remove any guilt or weirdness that she might have about her desire for this. It's pure, it's real, and that's completely okay.
It's just normal.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I also wanted to, let me start out with saying there's an episode we did that I might as well have recorded for you, Desperate. I'm just going to call you Desperate. Back in December of 2019, so a little over a year ago, it was a side chat called What If You Never Get What You Want? So go back and listen to that. That's your homework. I give you that as your homework after this. Go back and listen to that. And anyone who's afraid that they have something that they're never going to get, go back and listen to that one. Fast forward. That's a normal thing for you to want. It's not weird to want partnership. It's not weird to want connection. It's not weird to want a family. That's like an incredibly normal thing. And I think what you might be taking issue with is people who want it for the wrong reasons. It's possible to want something normal and have slightly not great motives.
You can want it just because it's normal, which is not necessarily. Sure. That's just following the life checklist.
Yeah. And you can have, I think you can have so many different reasons for wanting one thing. And some of them can be very pure and great. And some can be a little bit questionable and iffy, which is where the desperation comes in. The questionable, iffy motivations are often, I need someone to validate me because I can't validate myself. I want someone to fill the hole or the void that I have on a spiritual level. And I haven't really done that work on myself and I don't want to. So I'm trying to not do the work and I'm trying to have someone else come in and fill me up in a way that I can't fill myself up. Not the best motivation. I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm saying there are lots of motivations you might need to be examining for why you want something. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because I want that too. And I'm about your age. I'm in the same boat as you. I haven't looked into egg freezing yet. Who knows? Let me give it another year. I might be looking into it too. I don't know. But I'm right in your boat. And I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because I want that too. And I don't want it for sketchy reasons anymore. I will tell you that there was a time when I was much more influenced by wanting it because there was a lot of work I hadn't done on myself.
Oh,
and
sure.
So, okay. Examine your intentions. Be honest about which ones might be a little bit like, I want someone to soothe my soul and I can't soothe my own soul. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the big question I want to ask you. What if you acted like it was inevitable? How would that change how you behave every day? Because right now, the reason you're acting the way that you do is because you don't believe it's inevitable. You believe there is a strong possibility you will not get what you want. And so therefore, you feel desperate. It's possible. I'm not saying easy. I'm saying it's possible to wake up every day and feel like that's going to happen. I have decided that's going to happen. So then what am I going to do in the meantime? How am I going to prepare for that? That's something that Danielle Laporte, a concept she introduced us to years and years ago, called active waiting. Instead of passively waiting around for something to happen and twiddling your thumbs and feeling resentful because you don't feel like you have any power, how can you assume this is going to happen? So I might as well prepare for it. Is it getting my finances in shape? Is it, physically feeling stronger and fitter so that I can be a healthy mom? There's so many ways that you might actively wait, and your time, the same time between now and whenever you meet someone, could be spent in so much more of a, I say productive. I don't mean that in like the action way of like checking things off a list, but I mean that in a good for you kind of way, in a way that actually is really beneficial to your growth and development on multiple levels. And you say you want to take action, that's the best way to do it, is to act like it's inevitable. And then what are you going to do if it's inevitable? How are you going to change your behavior?
Imagine living without that giant question mark in your head. If you could
what
live
a relief, right?
and just were like, okay, this is going to happen. And
I don't know when, but
I don't know. Like, it's just, it's a matter of when, not if. Like if that were really and truly your belief, then how much more brain space would that free up?
Right?
How much less stress and anxiety would you have on any given day? What would you do with that time and that internal space?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the action piece, because that seems like a big part of this question that she's asking is like, I feel like I want to take action and everyone's telling me if I take action, that's not ever when it happens. Well, first of all, who knows when it happens, right? You can find examples of people taking action and making it happen, or people who had no intention of that happening and bam, it happened. So there's no formula for that.
No.
So here's like my formula for when and how or whatever to take action. If you are taking action from that place of desperation that you described, and you're like, I got to figure this out, clock is ticking, you're like counting down the days and the years of your fertility, and you're like, I got to get on every site, I got to go on every date. That kind of action is going to create more anxiety on your part. It's going to
make you make worse decisions.
Exactly. That is the wrong kind of active waiting.
You want to know how I know she's been doing that already? Because she was in a relationship for 6-9 months with someone who she was completely on the opposite page with.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to have to just again, gird your loins for what I'm about to tell you, but you came to us, so you knew you were going to get something potentially difficult, right? If you were with someone for a short period of time and you thought that they could potentially be the right person for you, and then they end up
needing space,
guess what just happened? You were overlooking red flags that were very likely obvious from the beginning because you were desperate, because you didn't want to see them.
A deeper connection than was actually there.
Yes. So guess what? The best possible recipe for not getting what you want is continuing to take action from the desperate place you're in right now, because that's what you're going to keep doing. You're going to keep attracting people who are a match to your desperation in some way, which means if you attachment styles, right? We can link to our episode about attachment styles. You're coming from an insecure place right now. Insecure people attract avoidant people, which is exactly what happened in your last relationship. If you keep coming from a place of insecurity, you're going to keep attracting avoidant people. And then you really are going to be 40 and in the same boat. So the absolute best strategy for you to get out of this cycle that you're in is to just actually act like, you know what? It's inevitable. And you're not going to, I promise you, you're going to be so much more of a magnet to what you want when you stop acting like it's a question and you just start assuming very audaciously, no, I'm going to get what I want and I don't have to manage it. I don't have to force it. I don't know when, but that's okay because I can do some things for myself in the meantime. That is going to be so much more attractive to someone who's right for you than the energy you've got going right now, which is only attractive to people you don't want. That's the irony.
Yes, exactly. So you know the approach you have been taking feels like it's not working. That's why you're here. That's why you're asking this question. So what I imagine she's hearing right now is, oh, so I just sit around and don't do anything. And I'm a person of action and I like to do things. And
I didn't tell her to do nothing.
I know.
I told her to actively wait.
I know.
And I gave her some examples of what that can mean.
I know. I'm playing devil's advocate of like, I want to do things and I want to be proactive and productive. So here's the opposite of acting out of desperation. Acting out of instinct or intuition, right? So when you are in a spiral and you're like, oh my God, is this ever going to happen for me? Maybe I need to get on another dating site. Maybe I need to go do, maybe I need to join another group.
Might as well just marry this guy who's kind of a shit, but I need kids, so I better marry him because I'm 36.
When you make decisions from that place, it is always going to come back and bite you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to get divorced in your 40s and then have to be dating again when you're like 45. You looking forward to that?
Right. I know that's not what she wants. So
no.
If, however, you are taking a walk and thinking about something else and listening to a podcast and you're like, maybe I'll go here this afternoon, or maybe I will sign up for this site or whatever. And you get like a spark of an idea that just feels kind of like interesting and curious and not from that place of fear and lack and desperation. By all means, act on the instincts or the ideas that come from a place of inner calm and just curiosity and like, I'll test this out. I'll try that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
That's following. So you get to act. You just don't get to act from desperation. You get to act from more inspiration and curiosity and lightness and inner calm. Check your inner state when you have an idea about what to do before you do something about it.
And she's not going to like you telling her that she only gets to act when her intuition feels like it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying every day you can take action from a place of inevitability as opposed to desperation. I am saying you can actively wait every day. You get to decide what that means. You get to decide, okay, you know what? Right now, unfortunately, I am a match to someone who's a match to my desperate energy, and I don't want that. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get some coaching. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to get my brain scrubbed in some way or another. I'm going to like do my own inner work. Maybe I do decide to, you know what? I'm going to get into yoga. I've always wanted to get into that, and I need like a mental physical challenge. That's an excellent way of like preparing myself for what I want. What is a healthy way of preparing yourself for the life that you want? That is the question for you. Personally, I've had to do a lot of this work. I've spent the past couple of years doing a lot of this work. And in doing that, I'm not saying I was always actively doing it for this particular reason, but I can tell you it was one of the reasons. And I can say assuredly right now with my 3-day greasy hair and my badass mood today that I still am a better match to the kind of person I want today than I would have been a year or 2 or 5 ago. Absolutely. And part of that is because I've actively waited. So I've paid off debt. Because you know what? The kind of person I want to be with probably doesn't want to be with my broke ass, Not that he cares about money, but it's just like, okay, if there's something you're not looking at, then you're going to be a match to someone who's also not looking at their stuff and isn't doing their work or isn't taking responsibility.
Who do you want to be in that relationship? And you want to be someone who feels, financially solid, on solid ground.
Well, it doesn't need someone to come rescue them because she's swimming in debt, because then what are you going to attract? A rescuer. I promise you don't want that. That's just a match to your wounds. Our friend Madeline gave me the best kind of like smackdown at one point when she did a reading for me. And she was like, right now, all you would attract is someone whose sword is a match to your wound. Right now, I think that's what you got going on. Desperate. So it's your job to tend to those wounds so that the people you don't want, their swords aren't a match to it. So they just bounce right off of you. That's your work. There's so many different ways that you can do that. And if you need ideas, well, that's what coaching is for. We can come up with a million ideas. Coaching in and of itself is a hugely helpful way to change, kind of the level that you're attracting and to up level, but also a great way to come up with other ideas about how to like become the kind of person you want to be so that you attract what you want into your life. Not the only way. I'm just telling you, well, this is my way.
Mm-hmm. We would also be remiss to not direct her to your episode with Shani Silver. I mean,
Sure,
that just is like on the nose on what she needs to listen to next.
And
if she hasn't yet. Yeah, about being a happily single woman.
That was from April of 2019. So, no, 2020. Wow, I'm sorry. It's still 2020 and that feels like a long time ago. So in the moment I'm recording this, it's still 2020. So that was from April of 2020. I'll also
please listen to that one.
I know that this was not easy for you to hear necessarily, but I say it all out of love and also just wanting you to get what you want. Like 100% everything I'm saying is because I very much am here for you. I support you. I want the same thing as you and I want you to get what you want. And I'm going to tell you right now.
We are on board with what you want.
Like, you know, if you continue down the desperate track, you're not going to be a match to what you want. And here's the last thing I'm going to say. You don't have to be totally not desperate. You can also, on certain days, just accept your desperation. Because trying not to be desperate is also a recipe for hopelessness. Because there are going to be days where you just feel like so frustrated and very desperate. And then you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm like screwing myself over because I'm only going to be a match to the wrong people when I feel like this. And then you're going to be like, but I can't possibly not feel like this. And so it's a hopeless and I give up and you're going to feel like depressed. Yeah, it's also okay to feel that way sometimes. It's just okay to feel like it's a normal sensation. If you greet it with compassion and not anger or resentment or frustration, it's going to pass a lot quicker than if you try not to feel it. It's okay to feel it. Just, are you acting from that place? Is more so important.
The nature of being human is having desires. And the nature of having desires is some days you're going to be really frustrated that you don't have it yet. That's it. The only cure for that entirely is to stop having desires, which that sounds like a very, very dull existence. So if you really, truly want something, it's okay to be sad some days that you don't have it. Of course. And frustrated that it hasn't happened yet. And that it's taking longer than you want it to take. But so just don't be hard on yourself about that. It's a natural part of having desires. And when you can, right, when you're not too far down the negative spiral, try to act from that place of knowing and believing and expecting. And on top of that, just to go back to the first point I made, like, don't feel guilty or bad or weird about wanting this. Don't feel anti-feminist. Don't feel like it's not evolved of you. This is a completely valid thing to want, and any judgment that you put on it just makes the whole experience feel worse. So it's perfectly natural to want it. I want it. Rachel wants it. Most of the people that I talk to want a family, want partnership. That's a normal human thing. No judgment about that.
And no explanation needed.
Nope. None.
Okay, I hope that was enough for her. Wow, we probably like sent her a real one.
In a good way, I hope. Ultimately good.
Yeah, ultimately good. Ultimately good. Might not be good for the moment. That's all right. I can handle that. Okay, this was a long episode.
We had a lot to say.
But
we've also been gone for a little while, so maybe people won't mind getting a little more from us.
Okay. Well,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Oh, I always forget this, so I'm not going to forget it this time. We're doing a bonus book club episode at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And we're reading The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It is like, it's kind of like a Big Magic before there was Big Magic. It was actually a book that inspired Liz Gilbert to kind of do her Eat, Pray, Love.
Eat, Pray, Love.
Eat, Pray, Love. So it's really interesting, and it's a great book for you to start reading if you want to get more creative is such a vague way of saying it, but if you want to unlock and unleash latent creativity and you want to, I honestly feel like, work through a lot of stuff in a creative way, that's really what this book is for. It's not just for art or creativity. It's for working through some stuff.
Yeah, I've already, since I've been starting to read it, I've been pushing it on some clients of mine. For some of them, because they do want to unlock more creativity. Some of them just because there's a lot of emotion going on right now. And this really helps process it Like if you need some tools to process all the shit that's going on in your body, in your mind, in your emotions, spiritually, this is a really valuable book right now. And an end result is that you're going to end up being more creative because you have more internal space. It's just going to be a natural side effect. But even if that's not your main intention, I promise you are going to find many of the strategies in this book super helpful. So I'm loving it already and making everyone that I know read it.
I actually have resistance to it, which she talks about being a normal thing. And so I'm not having a loving reaction. I'm having I don't want to read that reaction.
Oh, interesting.
So, but I think that it's not a bad book to talk about. Like the book you don't really want to read, but you kind of feel like it's for a good, like it's for like a legit reason, is an interesting book to talk about. Mm-hmm. So we'll be talking about that at the end of the month if you want to get it or start reading it now. And we will be back on Tuesday with, I don't know, some sort of Magic 8-Ball, I think, episode.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.